Hello and welcome to another episode of Maths with Mrs. Banks, where we make maths fun and easy to learn. And in this video, we're going to focus on factorization for mathematics grade 9, and this is part 1 of a 4-part video series on factorization. And in this video, we're going to focus on how to factorize by taking out a common factor. On that note, please don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on part 2, 3, and 4 of this video series and videos we upload in the future. We have a lot to cover, so let's start. In summary, we're going to look at what is factorization. What exactly is factorization? How is it different from multiplication? And what exactly do you do when you factorize? Number 2, we're going to look at the simple monomial common factor. How to do that, how to take it out, how to spot it. Number 3, we're going to look at the complex binomial common factor. What a binomial is, we're going to look at that, and how to spot that complex binomial factor. And then number 4, we're going to look at what happens when the factor is there, it's common, and you can see it. However, the only slight difference is that the signs are not the same. What do you do in such a case? How do you change your signs so that you end up with identical factors that you can easily take out, which is the process of factorization. Let's start. What is factorization? Factorization is basically, and simply put, the reverse of multiplication. Multiplication is when you've got factors. For example, on the left hand side, you've got a monomial, which is 4x squared, multiplied by another factor, which is a binomial, because it's an algebraic expression with two terms, and that is 3 plus 2x cubed. What happens when you multiply this together? You get to the right hand side, which is 12x squared plus 8x to the power of 4. This is the process of multiplication. That's what we call multiplying a monomial by a binomial. Now the reverse, taking it back to its factors when you already have a product on the right hand side, taking it back into its factors, that process is called the process of factorization. Now, in order to factorize without issues, you need to know how to multiply first. So let's do this. Let's multiply, and let me show you exactly how you multiply a monomial by a binomial. So this is what you do. You've got your 4x squared. Outside, multiplied by 3 plus 2x cubed. 3 plus 2x cubed. This is what you do. So step number 1, you multiply the monomial on the outside by the first term of the binomial inside the bracket. That's number 1. And number 2, you multiply the same monomial outside by the second term of the binomial inside the bracket. Now, if you had more terms in this bracket, you would do the same thing. Multiply the monomial outside by each one of the terms inside the bracket. So now let's go. Now, here is the process of multiplication. When you multiply, the first thing you should look at the sign. What I mean by the sign is your plus and or minus. That's the first thing. Number 2, you look at the numbers or the values, the numbers. That's your 2, 3, 4, whatever, and focus and on so on and so forth. And then the next thing you do, the last thing, is your variables. All right, that is your x, y, z, a, b, and so on and so forth. Basically, those that are not straight numbers, this you can actually substitute any other number for them. So that's the process that you do, you follow. So number 1, it's signs. Number 2 is numbers. And number 3 is the variable. That is the process of multiplying out. So what you do is you go equals to. Now you start with the signs. Positive times positive gives you positive. So you don't have to write it. You can leave it like this. All right, but you can write it if you want to. Next thing, we multiply the numbers together. 4 times 3. That gives us 12. Next thing, we multiply the variable with whatever it is there. If there is no other variable, especially that which is the same as this one, then we just simply write x squared the way it is. And we're done with the first term. Next, we multiply positive times positive. That gives us positive, so that is plus. And then next, we'll multiply the numbers 4 times 2. That gives us 8. And then now we multiply the variables x squared by x to the power of 3. Now, using the rules of factorization and the rules of multiplication of binomials and the rules of multiplying exponents, if you multiply x squared by x to the power of 3, That will leave you with x to the power of, now what you do is you add the exponent, and that gives you an answer of x to the power of 5, because you add the exponent. Now when you multiply powers of the same base, you add the exponents, and that's exactly what we're doing. So what you do now is you go do the same thing, x to the power of 5, and that's your answer. That's how you multiply. Like I said, factorization is the reverse of multiplication. So what happens is that, how do we then go back? What we do when we go back, you're going from the product 12x squared plus 8x to the power of 5. How do you go back? This is what you do. You look at your common factor, the highest common factor between 12 and 8. You find the highest common factor between 12 and 8. Okay, 8 is 2 times 2 times 2. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 2 times 3. Now the common factor is this part, and that will be equals to 4. That is your highest common factor. That's what you take out. So you will take that common factor out. That is 4. Next, you look at the common factor between the variables, and then you've got x to the power of 2 and x to the power of 5. Now x to the power of 5 can be written as x to the power of 2 plus 3. X to the power of 5 can be written as x to the power of 2 times x to the power of 3. So now this x to the power of 2 becomes the same common with this one. So now the highest common factor between the two is, so you've got x squared. Now the highest common factor between the two will be the x to the power of 2. So you take that out, and the common factor of the whole thing now is 4x squared. Now you go, what is the number that I must multiply 4 by to get me back to 12? And that number is 3. And because x squared is exactly identical, you just leave it exactly like this, because if you go 4x squared times 3, that will give you 4 times 3, 12x squared. So that checks out. Next, we ask ourselves, plus, what is the number that you must multiply 4 by to get you 8? That is 2. And what is the variable that you must multiply x squared by to get you x to the power of 5? That will have to be x to the power of 3, because when you multiply x squared by x to the power of 3, that gives you x to the power of 2 plus 3, which is equals to x to the power of 5. This is a bit messy, so please bear with me, but that's how you factorize. Now let's move on. Let's look at the method of the simple monomial common factor. What happens when you basically all you need to do is take out a simple monomial being an algebraic expression with one term. So let's look at this example. For example, notice that you've got the numbers, yes, but what happens is that you've got x squared over here, you've got x over there, but you do not have any variable over here. So that x cannot be declared a common factor throughout the terms, which is a total of 3 terms. Trinomial is what, because 3 terms, that is a trinomial. So x will not be taken out as a common factor. A common factor must be common amongst all of the terms that we have there. But look at the numbers. 3, 15, and 12. 3, 15, and 12 have a highest common factor, and that highest common factor is 3. So we take that out, that we can take out. Now that leaves us with x squared, then minus, remember the signs must match, 3 times. To get ourselves from 3 to 15, we need to multiply by 5 and the x. Then to go from 3 to 12, that will be plus 4. Notice the signs, they must match. 3x squared, 3 times x squared, that's 3x squared. 3 times negative 15x, that's negative negative 5x, that's negative 15x, and then 3 times 4 is 12, and it takes you back to the original. That's how you check. You can multiply out your own way. All right, next let's look at this one example. Remember, first of all, we must get the highest common factor of the numbers. So we've got 15 and 3. 15 can be written as 5 times 3, and then 3 can be written as simply 3 times 1. The common factor is 3. So the HCF here is 3. Highest common factor is 3 of the numbers. That's good. We are done. Now let's look at the common factor between the A's. So we've got a to the power of 4 and a to the power of 4 and a. The highest common factor is a. So that's what we take out. That's what we take out for the A's. Now let's look at a common factor between the B's. It's b to the power of 6 and b to the power of 2. Now the highest common factor here between the two is b to the power of 2. So let's take that out. So b to the power of 2. Now what we do is we look at what it is we need to multiply each one of the factor of the terms by to get back to the original. So to go from 3 to 15, we need to multiply by 5. The numbers are fine here. To go from a to the power of 4, that will be a to the power of 3, because when you go 3 plus 1, it will give you 4 at the top. B squared to b to the power of 6, that will be b to the power of 4, because when you multiply these two together, b squared times b to the power of 4 will be b to the power of 6. We're done with the first term. We're done. Now, to get to the next one, we have a minus, so that will also be minus. All right, to go from 3 to 3, you just multiply by 1, so we don't have to write anything here. To go from a to a, we don't have to write anything there. And to go from b squared to b squared, we don't have to write anything except for 1. And that's how you factorize that. So that is your answer. Next, let's look at what happens when your common factor is actually a binomial. What happens when your common factor is a binomial? Now let's look at this question. Now factorize by taking out a common factor. First, underline the common things. Here is the common thing. You've got a plus b in brackets, in one bracket, and then you've got the same in the other bracket. That's your common factor. That's what you take out. So you go equals to a plus b. That's what we take out. Now, notice that what we have left is what we put in another bracket. So that will be x minus y. And that's it. You're done. Next, here is another one. Notice that 5m plus n. Now notice that m plus 5 n is the same as m plus 5n. It's exactly the same. You can even write it like this. It is exactly the same. Now, it would be different if you had different signs. If it was not plus separating them, then maybe it would be different. But that's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. So what you do is you take out that common factor. That is m plus 5n. You can write it as m plus 5n or 5n plus m. It exactly is the same thing. Now, what do we have left? We've got m over here. And over here, we just simply have negative 1. So that's what you write that as, and that is your answer. That's how you factorize that. Lastly, let's look at what happens when you need to change the sign. Here is what happens. Now notice that we do have a common factor, but it's not quite like looking the same way. Instead of x minus 3 on the second one, we have 3 minus x instead. Now what do you do in order to change this around? Now you can show you a long way of getting this done, but basically all you do is you change the sign in here into a plus, and that changes this around, so that becomes x minus 3. Now you have a common factor. Here is the common factor, and this common factor, now you can basically just work around it. This is how you work with the common factor. You take it out, that becomes x minus 3. and then that leaves us with x plus y. So that leaves us with x plus y, and that's how you factorize that. Now I'm going to show you why this is the case. Let's 3 minus x, all right. Let's look at minus in bracket x minus 3. That is equals to minus x. Minus negative is plus. Minus x plus 3. That can also be written as 3 minus x. So yes, that's how you can justify that, and it is very, very correct. Now this one looks like it's not the same, but notice that the only thing you can do over here is take out the minus. Let's take out the minus and see what happens to it. So let's go 3x, and then let's take out the minus. We're taking out the minus, and then that leaves us with positive x plus 6. That minus and this minus give you a plus, so that changes this to a plus. So that becomes negative minus, that is plus 3x, and then times x plus 6. Now you have a common factor. There is the common factor. Let's take it out. X plus 6 is the common factor, so we take that out. X plus 6 in bracket, and that leaves us with 4 plus 3x. And that is how you take out a complex common factor by changing a sign. We've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.